What up, everybody? Power Book 4 Season 2, Episode 5. There was a shooting at the diner that Diamond hangs out at. And as a result, a young girl was shot. When in the hospital, she told Mireya to tell her father, Felipe, she loved him. Later that same episode, Mireya was having a conversation with her boyfriend at the time, very upset about the whole situation. And she mentioned that the girl's father was even named Felipe like hers. However, Dr. Kendall wasn't showing any empathy towards Mireya and told her to grow up and do her job. And this was basically the final straw that caused Mireya to break up with Dr. Kendall. Then on episode 8, we saw Abuela talking to Che at Che's daughter's quinceañera. And she told him what a fine job he has done raising his daughter. Che's reply to Abuela was, "And you did a fine job with Felipe, then Miguel and Mireya." This implicated that Abuela had been responsible for raising her son Felipe's children, Miguel and Mireya. But this is the second time now that they mentioned Mireya's father's name, Felipe. And know that power does things intentionally and not by coincidence. If they would have only mentioned that name once, then never again, I would have let it slide. But since they have mentioned him twice in 4 episodes, I had to ask the question, is the infamous Felipe Lobos the father of Miguel and Mireya? And once I took the time to connect the dots, I am definitely now convinced that Lobos is indeed the father of Miguel and Mireya. So before I move on, the obvious question many may ask is, why does Miguel and Mireya have a different last name than Lobos? But the name Lobos is not actually Felipe Lobos' last name. That is only a nickname like Ghost or Diamond. The word Lobos translated in English actually means the wolf. So in English, we would call him Felipe the Wolf. I'm guessing he earned this nickname from being so vicious. So considering Lobos is actually just a nickname, Lobos' government name could easily be Felipe Garcia. He possibly even may had to change his name from Garcia to Lobos to hide his identity after what happened to his father. Getting me to the story Abuela told about her husband to Miguel in episode 7. Abuela told Miguel that his grandfather was the most dangerous man in the most dangerous city in all of Mexico. Then she went on to name about 3 or 4 cities in which his territory covered. She told him that the Garcia name commanded fear and respect. Then she said, then he went on to do what men seem to do when they get a taste of their own power. He got complacent, he trusted too much, and trust is like blood in the water to piranhas. And she concluded by telling him that his grandfather took his eyes off the ball, so they cut out his eyes. Miguel replied that he had heard that story 1,000 times. But Abuela's response to that was, Miguel hears her, but he doesn't listen, and that she had to crawl across the border with a baby to save her own life. So this confirms Miguel's grandfather was not only in the game, but he was also a top dog in the game, similar to Lobos. So with that said, can we confirm that Lobos' father was also in the game? And the answer is yes, indeed. The answer comes on Power Season 1, Episode 8. Lobos was questioning Ghost and Tommy if they had taken care of the problem maker within their organization. And convinced Rolla was the traitor, they said yes. Tommy went on to tell Lobos that Ghost handled it himself. Then Ghost chimed in and told Lobos that it was a good friend of his and that he owed him that much. Lobos' reply was, "Bravo, Ghost. That was old school, like my father's generation." Then Lobos told Ghost they were exactly alike. So this does confirm that Lobos' father was also in the life. So if Abuela had to crawl across the border with a baby, that would also mean that Lobos likely didn't grow up in Mexico. Is there anything from Power that lets us know that Lobos grew up in the US? And the answer is kind of. Lobos was pretending to not know any English one day when he was being questioned by the feds. And Cooper Sax' reply to that was, "That's interesting for a man who went to Wharton Business School." And if you don't know, Wharton Business School is an Ivy League school. So to get into that school, it would definitely take some money and intelligence. Now keep in mind also how Che told Abuela how fine of a job she did raising Felipe. This could possibly entail sending Felipe to the finest schools, including the Ivy League. I can definitely see Lobos having a similar story to Tariq, where Abuela wanted to keep him out the life, but since it was in him, there was nothing she could do about it. This could be why we see she's so close to Miguel. She might have tried a different approach with Miguel and decided to teach him the game instead of trying to keep him away from it. We also know from Power that Lobos was not into women, he was actually into guys. But I think Lobos has a similar story to JP, that he was with a woman when he was younger. Most likely he was pressured by Abuela to start a family or something. Then at some point later on, Lobos came out. This also could explain why Miguel and Maria's mother is nowhere in the picture. Keep in mind that Abuela told Che that family is everything to her. So I believe once Lobos came out and broke up with his baby mama, Abuela threatened the woman and took in Miguel and Maria to raise herself. Getting me to the age difference between Lobos and his kids, because I do know that Miguel and Lobos look too close in age to be father and son. But not so fast. Keep in mind that Lobos died anywhere from 7 to 10 years ago. And when I looked up the actors' real-life ages, I found out that the actor who portrayed Lobos is 50 years old, and the actor who portrays Miguel is only 30 years old. It must just be that thick beard that makes him look a little bit older. But a 20-year difference is obviously plenty of space and time for Lobos to be Miguel's father. Getting me to the questions, why didn't we hear about Lobos' family while he was on Power, and what happened to all his money? Keep in mind Lobos was in serious danger before getting locked up, to the point he was ready to get out the game. So because of this, obviously Lobos would not want anybody to know that he has kids or keep them very close to him at all. As far as his money, when he got arrested, they froze all of his assets. So because of that, his family likely never got access to his money. So with that said, things are going to get very interesting at some point when Maria finds out Tommy is responsible for killing her father. No, Tommy didn't technically pull the trigger, that was Ghost. But Ghost would have never been able to get to Lobos in the first place if it wouldn't been for Tommy. Tommy will probably slip up and tell Maria he has already killed cartel bosses or something like that. And that's how Maria will find out that Tommy killed her dad. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.